Hurricane Milton is on its way, and these residents aren't taking any chances. Cars jammed bumper to bumper as tens of thousands of residents of Florida's west coast flee the impending storm that experts warn could be the most powerful to hit this region in a century. It's also the second hurricane to hit the coastline in as many weeks and is currently barreling towards the major city of Tampa, whose mayor had a stark warning for anyone even thinking of staying put.
This is literally catastrophic, and I can say without any dramatization whatsoever, if you choose to stay in one of those evacuation areas, you're going to die.
The president today cancelled plans to travel abroad to oversee preparations as the monster storm hurtles towards Florida, bringing life-threatening storm surge and heavy rainfall.
We're driving up preparedness for Hurricane Milton, which could be one of the worst storms in 100 years to hit Florida. It's a matter of life and death, and that's not hyperbole. It's a matter of life and death.
Milton began as a Category 1 hurricane before exploding to a top-level Category 5 with winds of 180 miles per hour in record time, leaving one veteran meteorologist stunned and choked up as he delivered a news bulletin.
It's just an incredible, incredible, incredible hurricane. It has dropped 50 millibars in 10 hours. I apologize. This is just horrific.
Although Milton could weaken before making landfall, the wall of water it is pushing ahead of it won't. This storm surge is often the greatest threat to life, and some areas are predicted to receive up to 15 feet of water, the highest ever for the region. To make matters worse, residents are still reeling from the aftermath of Hurricane Helene, which hit a fortnight ago. A race against the clock to put debris out of harm's way and evacuate before tomorrow.
It's really frustrating that the last hurricane came, the storm, and they've screwed around and haven't picked the debris up, and now they're scrambling to get it picked up. And if this one does hit, it's going to be flying missiles. Stuff's going to be floating, flying in the air.
Fed by the warm waters in the Gulf of Mexico, Milton became the third fastest intensifying storm on record in the Atlantic Ocean. The heat in the sea has been abnormally high, and that heat acts like rocket fuel, propelling the storm forward, propelling the politics too. Florida's Republican Governor Ron DeSantis yesterday reportedly refused calls about the storm from Vice President Kamala Harris because they, in his words, seemed political. In turn, Harris blasted DeSantis after being briefed by emergency experts.
It's utterly irresponsible, and it is selfish, and it is about political gamesmanship instead of doing the job that you took an oath to do, which is to put the people first.
She also criticised her rival Donald Trump, who she said was spreading lies, including claims that funds were being diverted from storm survivors to migrants.
There's a lot of mis and disinformation being pushed out there by the former president about what is available, in particular to the survivors of Helene. And first of all, it's extraordinarily irresponsible. It's about him, it's not about you.
On the ground, it's about preparation, doing everything you can to get ready, to brace yourself before the monster storm descends.
So just how remarkable is this hurricane compared to others? Our weather presenter Liam Dutton is in our London studio to explain more. Liam.
Thanks, Aisha. Well, Hurricane Milton is a phenomenal storm. Here it is on the satellite picture earlier today, spiralling around very quickly, some very strong winds. And of course, it rapidly intensified from a tropical storm to a Category 5 storm in just the space of 24 hours. Now, this storm is the fifth most intense Atlantic hurricane on record in terms of its pressure. Peak winds so far have been up to 185 miles per hour. That's a top-end Category 5 storm, and it's delivered the strongest winds on record so late in the year across the Gulf of Mexico. Now, as we know, these storms are fueled by the very warm waters, and with the climate change and the oceans becoming even warmer, rapidly intensifying storms like this one are expected to become even more common as we head further into the future.
Liam, we've seen a lot of changes with this storm. What's the latest predicted path that it has?
Well, Aisha, thankfully today the storm has weakened ever so slightly, but it's still a powerful Category 4 storm. And in the next 48 hours, it's going to barrel eastwards across the Gulf of Mexico, likely making landfall on the west coast of Florida late Wednesday into the early hours of Thursday local US time as a Category 3 storm. And with that, there'll be very heavy flooding rains, damaging winds, and a tremendous amount of storm surge. That is a very big concern.
You say there's concern about storm surge. Why is that? When we think of hurricanes, you usually think of wind, don't you?
You do, and it's simply because storm surge is the biggest killer, the greatest cause of fatalities with Atlantic hurricanes. Over a 50-year period, almost half of fatalities were down to storm surge, compared to just 8% due to the wind. So how does storm surge work? Well, on the southern side of these hurricanes, you get these intensely strong winds. They literally lift up the water, throw it towards the shoreline, and the water just keeps going inland, sweeping away and inundating everything in its path. Now, this is the latest prediction from the National Hurricane Center, and the peak storm surge around the Tampa Bay area could be as high as 10 to 15 feet. That is higher than a double-decker bus. A very worrying and developing situation indeed, Aisha.
Thank you, Liam. I know you'll be keeping an eye on that for us.